The Viper, Part 2 ending, Part 1 down below. Let's find out what to do here. Okay, so she wrote me back a few hours ago and only said this: you can keep the house or not, if you don't want it to sell it. Nothing confusing about that. I am sure there is someone in the world for everyone. I hope things work out for you. I then replied, if I choose to sell, you have to agree though and sign the papers. Are you okay with that? As for nothing confusing, I was just referring to you saying sell the house one day, but then keep the house the next day. I figured whichever one you want, if you have a preference, is valid since both of our names are on the mortgage. That's all. I was just trying to be considerate. She then last replied with, yeah, typing on a computer helps. What she means by that is it's a pain to type and send emails on her phone, since she doesn't have a computer or her laptop yet. Still though, it sure seems like she's avoiding on purpose answering the question of whether she will sign the papers for putting our house up for sale. I'm at a loss for what to do anymore with her. She's just not communicating well with me at all. She seems to be acting like her entire life before 1 month ago just doesn't even exist, and she's just trying to wash her hands of everything. It's not that simple though when a still legally married couple have both of their names on a house mortgage. The joint accounts were moved under my name only after she originally flew out of state without telling me, to be with another man, and then didn't contact me at all for 4 days. I did meet with a lawyer in early June and she told me that it was best that I was holding on to the money, since she fled the state and was telling me and others that she was in love with him and didn't want to be here. The female lawyer actually commended me for never hitting her, and there being no record of domestic violence between us. She said most guys would have lost it and became violent, and then also broken or burned her things, which I didn't do either. It's beneath me. Burning her clothes isn't going to make me feel better or fix our financial problems. Since Monique has not returned to see out her joint financial responsibilities with me, I'm using that money towards her half of it, and keeping track of the dollar amounts. As for divorce, New York is the toughest. You have to be legally separated for 1 year first, followed by divorce. The lawyer said I would win based on cruel and inhuman treatment, but it would cost $800 for the separation, followed by $3,000 to $4,000 for the divorce. I don't have that kind of money to spend. I'm waiting for the lawyer to call me back to set up an appointment. Monique says she's filing for divorce in Nevada. I looked it up, and yes, she can file for divorce from any state she wants. Nevada only requires 6 weeks of being there to file a divorce. However, where I'm lost right now, I know this is what a lawyer is for, but I'm just really curious to get an answer now. Is that Monique claims the following. These are her words in an email to me. You just need to tell me if you want to do it the easy way or the hard way. If you and I file jointly, it's fast and easy and cheap. If you contest it, you have to fly here and Nevada law will divide everything in half no matter what. If you don't show up, I win. So, you see, I win no matter what. I can't find anywhere online that says that even though she can file in Nevada, that Nevada divorce laws would apply to a New York marriage. Divorce. All of our marital property is here in New York, always has been for our 10-year marriage, so it just doesn't make any sense to me that Nevada laws can dictate our divorce, let alone that I'd have to fly to Nevada for any reason. Nevada is a community property state. I found that online, but New York isn't. So, Nevada divorce law says that if we didn't agree on who gets what, then Nevada would split everything 50-50. But again, how can Nevada laws apply to everything being New York-based, which has different divorce laws? I'm not doing well emotionally at all. I met with a lawyer here for 1 hour 2 days ago. Monique is filing for divorce now in Nevada, and if I contest it, I will legally have to go to Nevada from here in New York to be in a courtroom with her. I can't say how much I don't want to have to do that. I'd rather never see her again as compared to seeing her one more time only, and that being in a courtroom. I spent weeks here, I guess in denial to a degree, thinking she'd come around rationally and if not come back here to work on our marriage, then at least come back to work and save our house from being foreclosed and ruining our credit for 10 years. But she's so irrational since she left, that she actually has emailed me saying she doesn't care if the house gets foreclosed. The lawyer here told me it's not worth the thousands it would cost me to do a New York divorce, since our financial and property assets are so little, other than the house. Monique wants $5,000, about half the money that was in the bank before I moved it under my name. The lawyer told me that any judge would be most likely by far would not award her the money due to her name being on the mortgage too. So she's financially responsible for paying half the mortgage every month. But she hasn't been. Instead, I've been paying it and keeping track of her end of the money, and so far, she's up to $2,000 spent on things which are in her name too as well as mine. Monique is also dragging her feet signing the paperwork to put the house on the market, and since it's in both of our names, I can't put it up for sale without her signature too. The only way I can float this $1,300 mortgage is if I find a full-time job paying at least $15 per hour, which is not easy at all to find in this area. Plus I'll need a roommate to split the mortgage with me. Locally I tried with everyone I even remotely know and nobody needs a place now. So it looks like I'll have to post on Craigslist or something and interview strangers. Even with that though, the house can be on the market for sale and then taken off the market if I have a roommate. But Monique is also threatening an estate sale if I don't give her the money and everything else she wants. She can do it too, I found out. So how many strangers would want to move into a house under those circumstances? I'm at the end of my rope here. I just don't know what to do anymore. All I see in my near future is foreclosure. The house gone, me with ruined credit for 10 years. And lots of landlords just for renting an apartment do credit checks, so I may well have lots of trouble just renting a cheap apartment. Comments: I see you did this to another man, her first husband. What did you expect? She demonstrated then that she was too selfish for marriage. I will not condemn her all around. Each of us has strong and weak points. But clearly, she had no qualms about leaving husband number one in exactly the way she has now left you. Please get the help you need to get through this and to help you develop the self-esteem that will prevent you from making this mistake in the future with another woman. First and foremost, stop any relationship that seems to be developing or has already developed the moment you find out someone is married. That is only one small level of protection, but it's an easy one. I hope your heartache heals and you find your way to true happiness. OP responds: actually, there were key differences between her first husband and me. When she married him at 18, it was so he could get military benefits. She only thought of him as a friend. She spent literally years telling him that she wasn't in love with him, that she wanted a boyfriend, etc. Her best friend and family also confirmed for me that was the case. But yet he chose to spend years with a woman who felt that way about him. Also, their divorce was filed, signed, and finalized weeks before she came to NY to be with me. Monique and I weren't even in the same physical location yet before she was divorced. With me and her though, she left me when we weren't even legally separated, let alone divorced. Myself though, I saw none of this coming up until the end. As late as only 3 weeks before she left, she was lying to me and saying she loved me and wanted to be with me. Her best friend and family also confirmed for me that unlike her first husband, all they heard from her for 8 to 9 years was that she was in love with me and that we were made for each other. So, if she had been telling me for just weeks, forget about as long as months or years, that she loved me as only a friend and wanted to have a boyfriend, then I would have been the one saying we need to split up, work together to sell our house first, etc. Monique didn't give me the respect that she gave her first husband because at least he knew where he stood, but she lied to me about her love for me. At least in the last year or so. I was looking through old archive sent emails tonight, and I found this email from Monique to her mom from July 2018, just 10 months before she left. I stay because he's cute and I like him. Life is life, at least it's not life with Robert. I don't think I remember what you mean by me going to his friends' houses with him. Frank doesn't have friends really. At work, I see people at work all the time. Robert didn't even like it when I worked because I would get restless and want to leave. Frank isn't perfect, but neither is anyone. I love him though. I actually think he's probably the most suited for me person on the planet. But I don't know everyone on the planet. There are just things I wish he felt different about, like meeting you guys. Monique, so, was she lying to her mom or not? I don't know, but I thought it was interesting that I ran across this since you touched upon the subject. I'm waiting on divorce papers from Monique now. She supposedly filed them a few days ago. There was no communication between us for close to 2 weeks. Things got even uglier in email. On July 9th I dug deeper online to see what I could find out about this guy she's with, because he pissed me off a day earlier when he actually emailed me and said, "I won. Sign the papers." We had no communication prior, and that's just a lowlife thing to say to me. So, I found a court document online of him from 2012 where a 1-year restraining order was filed against him for domestic violence by some woman he was with at the time. That really set me off after all of Monique's BS after she left me of having to flee for her safety from me after 10 years together of me never physically hurting her. I sent the domestic violence link to her and 2 days later she emailed me back nastier than ever denying that he hits women. And she called me scum for trying to take away what she loves. And she also said Alton would like you to please come to Reno to contest the divorce. He has a surprise for you and if you don't come his Jersey friend would love to come deliver it in person. There was a lot of other ugliness in that email, but then silence after it, which was mainly for the best. The only thing that bugged me was I've been trying to find a home unsuccessfully for 2 of our 4 cats, so I emailed her asking if she would fly back to take 2 of them. But no reply. I said I could have a friend take them to the airport so her and I wouldn't even have to see each other. But still no reply. I can understand not discussing us, but since we still have outstanding shared things here, lines of communication need to be opened for those topics. After days and days of no reply, I then saw that she went into my own MySpace account. She knew the password. I hadn't changed it since she left. Even though her and I are no longer on each other's buddy list and have private profiles so that we can't even see each other's pages, she logged into my account anyway and deleted all the pictures of her and us together. So, after that, I sent her the below email because I figured it would get her attention. And it did. Why and what is your motivation to try and erase our history of how you felt at the time about us? You can't change your true feelings from 2016 by deleting comments and removing pictures in 2019 of you and us. You should apologize for logging into my accounts and doing that. And also apologize for the way you left me, coupled with lying to me about loving and wanting me 3 weeks before you left, while at the same time you were already sneaking behind my back setting up your new adulterous relationship with Alton. It won't be difficult for you to just apologize for all of that. If you don't apologize either by replying to this or calling me to say it, then I'll seriously consider uploading video online of us from 1999. I think you know the video I'm talking about. It was the only time we made that specific type of video of us. Now, I'm not actually going to upload video online of us having a good time. However, her just knowing that I could if I wanted to, and her worrying about that, is enough for me. She's kicking herself right now because it was her idea 10 years ago to do video of us in bed. She wrote me back quickly, no apology, and only said you are not authorized to display any pictures of me without my approval. That is also the case with any video. I don't suggest that you upload and or display photos and or video of me on the internet without my permission. I will sue you. Sue or not sue, doesn't matter to me since I'm not going to do it anyway. She then got on Yahoo Messenger with me briefly the same day. But that didn't get me anywhere either. If you didn't need the MC for divorce papers, then why haven't I gotten them? W, because I was filing for a waiver to not pay $300. And they denied me. So, I don't have them because you haven't actually filed them yet. W, I did yesterday. Okay, so if you didn't lie about the MC, that's not the same though as you saying you haven't lied about anything. You were already communicating with Alton in late April, but at the same time telling me you loved and wanted to be with me. But 3 weeks later you were with him and then calling me 4 days later telling me you were in love with him. Something in there isn't true, and I'm sure sadly that the untrue part is about you still loving me in late April. Look, I know there's no fixing us at this point. All I'm asking for is just a little bit of sorrow and apology for how we ended, so that we can move on easier without further anger between us. W, of course, it's sad how it ended. I didn't want it to go like that at all, but you have to see your part also. You were scary and I had to go where I felt safe. Please stop making it scary and bad. You have the ability to make it better and you keep choosing instead to continue torturing me. I'm just still blown away that she refuses to apologize for anything after 2 months of being gone. The fact that she still defaults to me being scary, and also saying she felt safe going to a stranger 3,000 miles away who could have done anything to her when she got there, murdered her in her sleep, who knows, is just completely unrealistic. She obviously is still in such denial about how terrible it was in the way she left me, that she just doesn't want to. Can't face the guilt. I think it's starting to slowly catch up to her though, since she's so desperate to erase us that she even feels the need to delete pictures of us from my own MySpace account. Originally weeks ago, she said she would be putting in the divorce papers that she wanted $5,000, which I told her no way to since she wasn't paying on her half of the mortgage, and I told her the lawyer I talked to said it was almost a guarantee that a judge wouldn't award that half of the money in the bank to her for that reason. So, the one piece of good news I got from her on Yahoo Messenger was this: Monique, when the divorce is final, you will have to give me money anyways. I only asked for $2,000. You will see in the papers when you get them. I'm assuming she talked to legal aid or whoever and they told her the same thing about the money and her end of the mortgage, etc. So, what I think she's doing now is asking for $2,000 only, because she knows how much I don't want to have to fly to Nevada for a contested divorce and stand in a courtroom with her. It would cost me close to $1,000 in plane tickets, hotel. So I think she knows I'd rather just give up an extra $1,000 or so by just agreeing to it and having the divorce be uncontested. Finally, even though I made it previously clear to her that if she flew here to get the cats, that there was no need for us to see each other, and also that I didn't want to have to go see her in a courtroom in Nevada, she still said this in Yahoo Messenger: Monique, it is clear you are desperate to talk with me. You are trying to hurt me and get me to come back any way that you can, and I just can't keep playing the games with you. I'm at a loss there for logic. Is she so messed up emotionally that she actually wants me to want her, even though she doesn't want me anymore? I've always had a weak spot for when I feel I've been unjustifiably wronged. She's done so many wrong things to me throughout all of this. But the one aspect I said above is the one thing I keep coming back to the most. It makes me so angry and still negatively affects me every day. And I'd feel better if she would just tell me that she's sorry for what she did and that she knows it was wrong. As for her being with a guy who has a history of hitting women, that's out of my control. She made the choice to go be there with him, and still be there with him. While I don't wish any harm on her in the form of him hitting her, if it does happen, she let herself be in that situation. As for him being dangerous to me, Whatever. I have enough cliched male ego in me that more than once I've thought about being face to face with him and how much I'd enjoy getting into it with him. It's not going to happen though, with them being 3,000 miles away. I really don't think I'm going to see Monique ever again for the rest of my life. I need to get out of this house, this state, everything about here. I can't find anyone here who I even remotely know who is looking for a place or roommate right now. I feel like I'm seriously going to have some form of emotional breakdown very soon if I don't leave. I don't want her or our marriage anymore, but the ghost of her. I see her everywhere in this house. When I go food shopping, etc., I see the woman who was so good to me for 9 out of 10 years. But she's gone now forever. I have a friend down south where the cost of living is a fraction of here in New York State, which is out of control. We were on Craigslist and there are apartments and houses there for rent which are literally 50% or more less expensive than New York State. He looked at a house rental for me today 20 minutes away from him for only $450 per month. Plus the minimum wage down there is the same as here. The house is kind of run down, old, he said. He's emailing me pictures shortly. But it's in a good neighborhood. I'm probably going to have to take it regardless. Our still legally joint mortgage is still the same. I'm going to run out of saved up money 3 months from now if I don't leave. So, the plan is to get me the place down there secured this week, and then I'll leave New York at the end of August. The real estate guy is going to talk to the bank about a short sale, which messes up credit but doesn't actually ruin it for 10 years like a foreclosure does. Regardless of whether a short sale happens, or foreclosure instead, I have to leave here. Just getting through one more month here will be pushing me to the brink of sanity. The thought of packing up and taking whatever will fit in a truck, driving almost 1,000 miles, scares me, but not as much as staying here does. My thoughts of death in the last week have been the worst they've been since right after she left. I need to leave here to literally survive both emotionally and financially, and I want to survive for the most part. So I'm trying. Well, I arrived in South Carolina a few days ago. On the upside, it's nice to look around an apartment and not see her ghost around me. The job hunt is on now. Since I last posted about a month ago, I actually had, at one point, changed my mind and was going to agree to the divorce and let her Visa credit card be switched over from her name to my name, just to get this all over with. However, she lied to me yet again when she emailed me after she talked to Visa and told me that they were sending me paperwork to sign and then for her to sign. Then the account would be closed and be in my name. When I got it though, I read it and what it actually said was that first I had to be added to her account as a joint card holder first before she could take her name off of the card. So, I emailed her saying no way, not in this lifetime. Obviously, the last thing two people do when divorcing is entering into any joint financial agreement together. Her Visa card has a $14,000 limit on it, so $9,000 is still available since she stopped using it once she got it up to $5,000. It was obvious to me that since she knew, but didn't tell me, that I'd have to be on the card jointly with her, that she was going to go out and max out the card right away spending $9,000, then take her name off it, leaving me legally stuck with the card being at $14,000 instead of $5,000. She wrote back to me, this was a few weeks back, and said if you contest the divorce, I'll never speak to you again, don't even email me, I won't reply. I'm blocking you. So that was that, no communication since, which is fine with me. I sent the court and her my contested divorce papers, to which in the section of wife shall receive the following debts. I listed all individual credit card accounts under wife's name. It was 2 weeks ago that she and the court got my divorce papers, but I haven't heard a word yet. I did notice that the address I sent her the papers certified mail with a return receipt, that it was signed for by somebody else, so I have no idea if she got them or not. I didn't know the name of the woman who signed for them. The woman at the Nevada court told me on the phone though that it's not my problem to chase her down if she doesn't provide me with her correct address. So, the divorce sits in limbo for now, and also our house in New York is on the market for sale. But the bank will only allow 3 months with no payments before they'll likely start foreclosure proceedings. So, we have until November 1st for it to sell, and if not, there goes our credit ruined for 10 years plus our existing credit cards will be turned off. On a related note, once I knew I was leaving the house and state for sure, I asked her to actually move back into the house with her scummy boyfriend so that they both could work there and keep paying the mortgage until the house sells to avoid foreclosure, since 2 people working can swing the mortgage. Unlike me alone when she left me. She said no and I couldn't figure it out since they're living in poverty in a trailer in Nevada. Then I found out that since he's been sued for so much back child support, and still owes so much, that he's basically a prisoner of the state and would be arrested if left Nevada. Oh, joy of joys, this loser who she hooked up with. 2 months later, I'm losing it all. Our house gets foreclosed next week, and the case management conference where the judge divides what we had when she abandoned our marriage, house, 4 cats, also happens next week. I finally found a full-time job that I'm overqualified for at only $8 an hour. I can't survive on that, let alone pay her anything in the divorce settlement. so I still need to find now a part-time job and work 60 hours a week just to live hand to mouth with rent, bills, car payment, food, and I'm bothering with this why. 6 months of taking all this day to day, alone, no family. What's the point, right? There isn't any. My divorce is still not final and my ex is getting meaner and meaner. She did this, and she thinks she has the right to demand, decide and act like a freaking bee because it suits her. My only happiness comes from the fact that my son does not want to be near her. Today is Thanksgiving and he refused to visit. My girls also prefer to be with me, so that makes me happy. She will take no responsibility for her actions. Everything is someone else's fault. A month later, our divorce was final as of December 28th. There were 2 case management conferences in the first and second week of December. And fortunately for me, I was granted permission at the last minute to appear in court via speakerphone. So, I was on the phone while Monique was in the courtroom with the judge. That was the first time since last summer that I had heard her voice or had any contact with her. So I was really nervous. But I held it together. We debated back and forth a bit about who was going to get what, but I held my ground and refused to take over her $5,000 in debt credit card. That was what I offered her when I contested the divorce in August, but she refused it. So, I was taking a gamble, because if we didn't come to an agreement in the case management conference, then an actual divorce trial would have been set. I was also glad to hear the judge, even with Nevada being a no-fault 50-50 split state, ask us what happened when she left. Monique spoke first, and then I spoke and kept it brief and to the main point, that being that she is co-owner of a house and mortgage with $150,000 owed on it, in which she walked out without warning, bought a one-way plane ticket on the spot, never came back even though I encouraged her to come back to live up to her end of our house responsibility. And also that she fled from a 10-year marriage in which there was never any domestic violence. I know she hated having to stand there silent, in front of a judge, while I said all that. So, I believe that she gave in and accepted my $4,000 offer because she didn't want to have to possibly go through all of that again in a court in a divorce trial. So, all in all, I couldn't have asked for a much better outcome in the divorce financially speaking. In other good news, while the bank did indeed foreclose on the house at the end of November, last week the PMI company that holds the mortgage insurance on the house called me about wanting to work with me, about saving it. So, they requested certain documentation from me to prove that we are a hardship case financially. It's in review right now and it looks very likely that they will approve it. If they do, the bank told me when I called them that they will abide by PMI's decision and actually reverse the foreclosure. Also, PMI told me they would take the 6 months of delinquent monthly payments and apply them to the back end of the loan to be paid off many years from now, as well as give me a couple of months to get my act together again after I'd be moving back into my house. 2 months later, positive update, I got a new job as of February 1st. After the first week of training, I've been on the phones taking inbound calls with only 1 day off so far. A week ago, last week I did 60 hours in 6 days. This week I did 62 hours in 6 days. So nice time and a half off pay. There are about 1,000 employees there, and I had been trying to get hired there for months and finally got an interview at the end of January. As for the psycho ex, she married trailer trash guy a week ago. She went from her first husband to me weeks later. Then from me for 10 years to him less than 24 hours later. Now she marries him less than 2 months after our divorce. She needs a psyche evaluation. She's insane. No dating various people or being single, independent. She has a severe codependence on men. Plus, only an idiot would marry her knowing her history of her first 2 marriages. So okay fine, they can have each other. Half a year later, I haven't adjusted to being alone. Being with my ex every day for 10 years was I guess too long for me to ever feel normal again alone. It doesn't help at all that due to finances, I had to move out of our house 1 year ago. And I've been in a crummy apartment ever since then in South Carolina, instead of being in NY State where I always lived. I've made one new friend in the last couple of months. She's my age, married 18 years, divorced and alone for the last 5 years. And we basically only talk on the phone. It's nice, and I enjoy it, but she doesn't come over here and she doesn't invite me to her place. I think she's even more bitter than I am. All I do is work my low-paying, high-stress job 40 hours per week, come back to this empty app alone, and sit here alone on my 2 days off. I've tried dating sites, didn't work. I try to meet new people locally, but at my age, women seem either married or divorced and closed off. I don't know how much longer I can keep doing this alone thing. I really don't. Plus, I live hand to mouth, check to check, and I can't even afford to send my ex her monthly $100 payment anymore. I paid her from January to June, but not since then. After months of not hearing from her, she emailed me a couple weeks ago angry about not getting her July and August payments. She said not to reply since she had my IP blocked. I hadn't heard from her in many months. and just to send the money. So, now she can go complain to the court, and since the 100 monthly payments was a court order in the divorce, I risk the court putting out a warrant for my arrest. I may get out of it though, because supposedly the court would contact me wanting me to show them how much I make and what my monthly expenses are. If they agree I don't make enough money to pay her too, they'd put a temporary stay on the payments until for when I'm making more money. The mortgage company called me again last week about wanting to see if I wanted to go back into my foreclosed house. That came as a surprise because I went through this with them 8 months ago. And in the end, in the review board, they denied it because I'm 800 miles away and I don't have a job there. I can only assume they're scrambling due to the house still not selling, even in a foreclosure auction, for well under what it's worth. And the house has been empty for 1 year with them also not getting paid in all that time. Plus, monthly mortgage, I'd have to find work, not easy in this economy. Plus 2 roommates to split the mortgage 3 ways. I miss my house, I miss home and my friends. I don't want to be alone anymore here. I don't think I'll ever get over this depression and anger that my life is what it is now. When I was a husband who never hit, never cheated, always worked, but I was left without warning anyway due to her mental snap, midlife crisis, and ran off to be with her first BF from age 12, to go live in poverty with him in a trailer in Nevada. Almost a year later, final update. I've been back in NY State since November, at a temp job with only about 20 hours per week, which ended last week. I'm going to a job fair tomorrow for full-time work at only $10 per hour. We'll see how that goes. I have to move out by June for my friend's place. A change of life for him means no more room for me, and I have 2 tentative places I may be able to go. But nothing definite. I have only about $500 to my name, so if I don't find another job this week or next, I'm in serious trouble. I met an attractive woman in her 30s on sites last month. We got together at her place for our first meeting, her decision, plus she initiated bonding with me on the first date. 2 days later, she went all cold feet on me and then blew me off. My battered ego definitely needed to feel wanted by an attractive woman again. But at the same time, being picked up for a good time on a dating site is not something I'm really into. We got along great, similar interests, so it's a shame nothing more developed from it. But it looks like she has issues. I quoted myself on no family because that's not actually the case. I haven't had any contact with family until last week. I didn't really know of where anyone was. Except for one. As it turns out, a cousin called me who lives around here. I didn't even know about him, nor him about me. Another cousin's wife who I had messaged on Facebook gave him my number, so he called last week since we live about 20 minutes from each other. The cousin's wife who had my number, her husband of 30 years, who is of course my second cousin, he's a well-known name. I'd rather not say who at the moment. A local cousin, he's brothers with my cousin's wife I wrote to. It felt to me like a family interview when we met last week. He asked me things about my upbringing, as well as saying he knows what info is on the net about our family, and he asked me a name and who the person was, and when I answered it correctly, he said that info wasn't out there and that he had to make sure I was actually me, not someone pretending to be me. I have to admit that came off totally bizarre to me. I mean, most of the time even I don't want to be me, so I can't even comprehend someone pretending to be me. How sad would that be? About an hour into him and I hanging out and talking, he invited me down to my cousin and wife's place. His brother with him in a few weeks, so that was nice. I assume if he didn't like me or whatever, he wouldn't have done that. I don't get starstruck. I've been around plenty of well-known bands through the years, but since I'd be hanging out at my cousin's house who I don't personally know, and he can be seen starring in a TV show, I may feel a bit out of my element. Then again, I may not. His wife looks and sounds very sweet. I've watched interviews on YouTube of her with the work she does. And the cousin I met said they're private and into family, which I guess makes sense since they're wanting or willing to open their door to get to know me. I'm hoping if I get really lucky, since they all already know I'm in a big jam work, financial-wise. And since it's often not what you know, but who you know, that maybe they can make some calls and find me decent work. I'm not looking for a cash handout from them or anyone, but in this awful economy, I don't think it's bad of me to hope that my cousin will use any contacts he may have to help get me a job so that I can just get by on my own. My comment: what do you think about OP's ending? He is starting to see the flaws in other people he is dating after all of this. Maybe things will get better from now.